One day, my mom asked my brother and me if we would like to move to the Netherlands with her and her boyfriend. When my mom told me, I didn't even think about it. I said, yes, of course, yes. Imagine, I was going to start high school in Europe and have my sort of exchange year. It sounded pretty good for me. For my brother, it was a bit more difficult, and my mom was going to miss a lot our family. I don't know, I guess change is very easy for me, and I'm gonna tell you why. After we decided to move to the Netherlands, I passed the next 5 months before moving in, making stories in my mind, imagining how it could be there. The school, the friends, the soccer team, because I play soccer, the rides to school, the trips around Europe, everything. And of course, when you are a very optimistic person, you imagine it in the best possible way. So I made up more than 70 different stories in my mind, but all were somehow the same. The nicest school with the cool kids, the school trips, the best parties, the greatest soccer team, the most handsome guys, taking the train and then riding the bike with a beautiful weather. Around 25 degrees with the sun shining on your face with a beautiful spring dress. Hmm, I'm going to stop right there. Never, ever imagine the Netherlands with such thing as perfect weather. I'm Mexican, and we always or almost always have a perfect weather. So I usually have the same mistake of thinking that there is always a perfect weather everywhere. But no, the Netherlands has the craziest weather. You never know. You can look through your window at 10 a.m. and the day can be sunny with a beautiful blue sky. Then you go to your room to put on a dress, and when you finally open the door to go outside, you see that there is a huge storm with a lot of wind and even lightning. Even the forecast guy has a lot of problems to predict the weather, and he's usually wrong. So there was the first wrong impression. The ride to school was different from what I thought. So my plan was to join an international school in the Netherlands. The thing was that they said that my English wasn't good enough, and it really wasn't good at the time. We didn't speak Dutch either, so what now? There was another school. I call it the introduction school because it sort of introduces you to the Dutch system, which is a very complicated system. But it wasn't a real school, it was more of a language school. And it is a pretty good idea if you plan to stay in the Netherlands for a while. But that wasn't our plan. So we were going to lose a year or maybe more. Instead of going to the typical high school from American movies, as I had imagined, hanging out with friends every weekend, I ended up in the opposite of my high school dream. I was for the first time in my life in the same classroom as my brother, who's a year younger than me. And he wasn't the only one. The whole class was younger than me. I didn't like that at all. I was 15 years old, and there were kids from 12 and 11 years old. That was going to be my high school experience, and I wasn't very happy about it. The first day, I noticed that something there was different to a regular school that I was familiarized with. The school was for immigrants, and most of them were also refugees. In my classroom were kids that had built a boat with their family and traveled all together to the Netherlands. Kids that were starving before moving to the Netherlands. Kids that had lost their parents or siblings. Kids that were escaping because of religion problems. Kids that were escaping because of wars. Kids that had been working since they were 5 years old. Kids that didn't have access to medicine before the Netherlands. And maybe for some of them, that was the first time they had joined a school. I was even afraid of asking about their past. At that very moment, I knew for sure that I wasn't going to have the normal high school experience. I remember being at my home on a Saturday night, studying at a dining table with my brother because we didn't have any plans, and watching the Instagram stories from my Mexican friends going to amazing parties, hanging out at the beach, going to, well, going on a trip and having dinner with friends and family. I actually started getting depressed to feel like this was a mistake. For me, it was very difficult to make plans in the Netherlands because I couldn't communicate with the kids from my school very well because of the language. They didn't have much free time because they had to work to support their family. They didn't have much money because, well, to make plans every weekend. And, well, the weather didn't help much because it was always cold and raining. I was angry, thinking that life had put me there, that it was my mother's fault. I was worried about school because I thought that I wasn't learning much. I was anxious, mad, sad, stressed, and I had lost all motivation I had. I was about to go back to Mexico. I had already made the admission test for my dream school, and I had passed. The school where all my friends go to, with the school trips, great sport teams, extracurricular activities, great English programs, and more. Then I made a trip to Mexico before moving back. And everybody asked me, how was everything? How was the social life? Did you meet someone? Did you like it there? Hmm. I'm a person with a very high ego. So, of course, I wasn't going to say the truth. What's the truth either way? But I also hate to lie. It's not my thing. So, what I did is the following: I made my reality sound like the best opportunity I ever had. How do you do that? Well, I told them that I saw my life from another perspective, which was true. For the first time in my life, I was in an environment with refugees, with very poor people, an environment where the majority had very shocking stories. And when I was at school, I was one of them. No one knew my story or the family where I come from. So they treat me as equal. In other words, I had the amazing opportunity of living in someone else's shoes, see their needs, how they think, how they behave, and understand why. I told my Mexican friends that this was one of the best experiences I've had. When I told them this story and I heard it myself, I thought, wow, wow, Natalia, what a year you just had. And I started to see it from another perspective, now as an opportunity. I realized that I became more human, that I started to see light in places that I didn't before. I started enjoying and appreciating more those little moments. I became more grateful for what I have, and I started to recognize opportunities in places that I wouldn't have seen before. This opened my mind. I realized I didn't have an ordinary high school experience. I had an extraordinary high school experience. And anyway, who decides what's normal? You won't imagine what happened next. I went back to the Netherlands and had one of the best years of my life. I started to look at everything as an opportunity. I will tell you that going back was one of the best decisions I've ever made. I was in the same exact country with the same exact people, but I was different. Now I was able to see what an incredible country the Netherlands is, with extraordinary people and beautiful culture. I had accepted that I was in another country and that now was my turn to be the outsider. In life, you will have a lot of opportunities. You can take them, but will you be able to see them? What I do and what works for me is to say yes to the unknown. The people that visualize is the people that takes chances, that see opportunities and takes them. And the people that expect the worst from everything is the people that loses those opportunities. There is a thing when you visualize something, you can imagine something great. And when it already happens, it isn't like you thought. Mark Marson wrote something worth remembering. When we feel that we are choosing our problems, we feel empowered. When we feel that our problems are being forced upon us against our will, we feel victimized and miserable. So You can either take the responsibility that you choose to be there, and if not, you are the responsible to see it as an opportunity and learn from it, or to see it as a mistake or punishment and be miserable. If you choose to see it as an opportunity, you would be choosing the optimistic and positive road, which is also the healthy road. There is a study from the School of Public Health at Harvard where the researcher Eric Kim said, it's not just that optimistic people tend to act healthier, it has also been correlated with less inflammation, healthier blood lipid levels, and more antioxidants that protect cells. So, being optimistic at difficult or unexpected situations is not putting the bad feelings away and concentrating the good ones. No, is to accept everything the way it is, feel everything the way you feel it at the moment, learn from it, and look at it as an opportunity to learn, to teach, to enjoy, to change. I don't know, but you are the one with the power of the decision, with the power of taking control. And as Brain Brown said, one day you will tell your story of how you've overcame what you're going through now, and it will become part of someone else's survival guide. Thank you.